Designing, producing, and keeping a modern fighter jet in the air can cost hundreds of millions of dollars. But what if the mission of that massive and expensive aircraft were performed by hundreds of small drones acting together, costing only a tenth of that aircraft's price? And what if these hundreds of drones were not just simple toys controlled by remote control, but a ruthless army with full artificial intelligence, capable of talking to each other and making their own decisions while flying? Throughout history, wars have always been won with larger tanks, more massive ships, and more giant missiles. However, the wars of the future may be won not with larger machines, but with more crowded and intelligent machines that darken the sky. Are autonomous drone swarms changing the entire logic and thousands of years of rules of war? Today, we take a close look at algorithmic armies that can make decisions in seconds and the new face of warfare. To understand this new and terrifying technology, we must first make a fundamental distinction. When we say a normal unmanned aerial vehicle or drone, we think of a single vehicle. This vehicle is usually directly controlled by a single human operator sitting in a remote room. Whatever the operator says, the drone does. However, the swarm system, known as swarm robotics, is a completely different beast. There is no single vehicle in a swarm. Hundreds or even thousands of drones take off at the same time. A human cannot control so many vehicles simultaneously. Therefore, the swarm is given only one ultimate task. For example, it is told to destroy the target, or scan the area. Once the swarm takes off, it instantly calculates task sharing, coordinated movement, and dynamic responses to changing situations through its internal artificial intelligence network. The real power is not in the firepower of a single drone, but in the collective intelligence of those hundreds of vehicles moving together. There is a very simple reason why all the world's armies are investing billions of dollars in this technology. The classic logic of war is beginning to collapse. Wars of the past relied on large platforms, incredibly expensive systems, and a single central control. You build a warship and concentrate all your power there. When that ship sinks, your power ends. In the swarm logic, however, the point is numerical superiority, low cost, flexibility, and a distributed decision-making mechanism. When you attack a swarm consisting of hundreds of drones, even if you hit 10, 20, or 50 of them, the swarm does not stop. Others immediately take over the tasks of those hit and continue on their way. The swarm has no heart or brain. The brain is the entire swarm. Hitting one is never enough to stop the system. In fact, this system that engineers are trying to build is not a new invention. It is the copying of the most perfect strategy that nature has used for millions of years. Think of those moments in the sky when thousands of starlings come together and move as if they are dancing. Or the massive schools of fish in the seas, those magnificent colonies consisting of millions of ants under the ground. No fish or ant is a commander giving orders to the others. In science, this is called emergent behavior. Each individual in the swarm only looks at a few friends around them and applies very, very simple rules, such as not crashing into them and going in the same direction as them. However, when those tens of thousands of simple rules combine, a massive, intelligent, and extremely complex structure emerges. Humanity is currently trying to code this simple but perfect algorithm of birds into metal machines carrying explosives. When this law of nature hits the battlefield, the rules of the game change completely. First is the reconnaissance and wide area scanning mission. The swarm can scan a massive area in seconds by dispersing in hundreds of different directions at the same time, leaving the enemy nowhere to hide. Second is the saturation attack. No matter how good a country's air defense system is, the number of targets that system can lock onto and hit at the same time is limited. The swarm tactic aims to lock the system, that is, to reach saturation, by sending thousands of threats over the defense systems at the same time. Third is deception and decoy targets. While part of the swarm occupies enemy radars entirely as bait, the part loaded with actual explosives can leak to the target via another route. While classic defense systems are designed for a single and large threat, swarms come like a nightmare with a large number of small threats. Aside from the tactical part, the real shocking change is happening in the economy. The biggest problem in the history of warfare is that a multi-million-dollar missile has to hit a $1,000 drone. Today, while the cost of firing one of the best air defense missiles is between $2 and $5 million, the cost of that small drone attacking it is only $20,000. Even the richest country in the world cannot sustain this cost war for long. Can a swarm of small, explosive-laden drones costing thousands of dollars bankrupt million-dollar systems by leaving them out of ammunition? This situation is the real breaking point that completely collapses the strategic thinking of generals. Cheapness is the most dangerous weapon on the battlefield. When the sky becomes this crowded, the rhythm of war reaches a speed that the human brain cannot perceive. In the past, you would see 3 or 5 enemy planes on a radar screen and you would have time to think and give orders to hit them. However, when 500 different targets appear on your screen coming towards you, changing their route every second, how will you decide which target to hit? The probabilities, data density, and moment of crisis are too complex for the human brain to process. Humanity is learning this fact painfully. War is no longer just about firepower, it is turning into the speed of decision-making in much less than a second. And in this speed race, it is impossible for a human to beat a machine. At this point where humans fall short, artificial intelligence takes the stage. Artificial intelligence is not a luxury for the swarm to function, it is a necessity. It is entirely possible with artificial intelligence for hundreds of drones to advance without colliding in the air, to perform instant route optimization to evade radars, to redistribute the duties of downed drones within seconds, and most importantly, to decide which of the hundreds of targets is more dangerous. However, this situation should not be confused with Skynet in the Terminator movie. Today's systems do not have a fully independent, philosophical consciousness. They are merely automation networks that solve specific mathematical tasks and targets loaded onto them much faster than humans. All these things we have described are not theories that remain in secret laboratories, but complete realities on the ground. Today, leading countries in unmanned aerial vehicle technology, such as the United States, China, and Turkey, continue to test swarm systems consisting of tens of thousands of drones over deserts or oceans. On the front lines in Ukraine, although it is not yet a fully autonomous swarm, the whole world is watching live as small drones are organized in groups to hunt down massive tanks and batteries. We have not yet seen a fully matured and AI-managed swarm war, but the direction in which the arrows point, towards which future, is certainly clear. It is a big mistake to think that the only advantage of swarm technology is its high numbers. A swarm is dangerous not just because it is crowded, but because it is flexible. Its main advantage is its ability to reshape itself instantly in the air according to the changing conditions of the battlefield, to show incredible durability because it is not connected to a single center, and to be divided into sub-task groups within itself. A swarm does not mean the platform of an aircraft. A swarm is the name of a brand new and flexible behavioral model created by that crowd. In this nightmare scenario where thousands of small explosives come from the sky, is the defending side completely helpless? Of course not. As the sword evolves, so does the shield. Since it is impossible to hit this swarm with physical bullets, defense systems are switching to energy weapons. To cut off the communication of drones with each other and with satellites, massive signal jammers and GPS jamming devices, namely electronic warfare, are used. Directed laser systems that melt drones in seconds instead of physical bullets, and even new defense drones that throw massive nets in front of the swarm are being developed. The real question to be asked here is this: will the attack algorithms of the swarms develop faster, or will the electronic warfare defenses? For the countries developing all this technology, there are also massive risks created by their own weapons. The biggest risk is that artificial intelligence makes a wrong target definition. A communication breakdown lasting seconds can cause hundreds of drones on autopilot to become confused about where to attack. Friendly fire, that is, the possibility of hitting one's own troops, or the destruction of an unintended civilian area, is not even out of the question. As autonomy increases, systems gain incredible speed and flexibility. But to the extent that you leave the control to the machine, the predictability of that machine also decreases. Not knowing exactly what your own weapon will do on the battlefield is a general's biggest nightmare. This loss of control takes us directly to the legal and human side of the business, to that great ethical boundary. Who will make the decision to pull the final trigger and kill a human in wars? Can you transfer this power to a machine? How will a drone decide through its camera whether the object at the target is an enemy or a child holding a phone? In international law, these systems are called lethal autonomous weapons. And many human rights organizations in the world see the complete transfer of the authority to select and kill targets to algorithms as an insult to human dignity and a massive risk of war crimes. A machine knows mathematics, but it does not know mercy. When that cold algorithm makes a mistake, who will be judged? The engineer who produced that machine, the commander who pressed the button, or just the machine itself? Looking at this whole picture, it would be a hasty comment to say that old systems will be completely thrown away. Tanks will not completely disappear in the wars of the future. Massive fighter jets worth millions of dollars will still be in the sky. However, swarm technology will add a brand new, invisible, and very lethal layer on top of warfare. Old platforms will only survive as long as they can work together with these swarms. The new battlefield may not destroy old systems, but it will forever change the rules of survival for old systems on their own. As a result, when we look at the sky, what we will see in the future will not just be massive birds of steel. The main thing that changes is not just firepower. The main thing that changes is not decision-making time or cost either. The main thing that changes is how many different entities and how many different intelligences a general and a soldier will have to deal with at the same time. Perhaps the wars of the future will not be shaped by larger armies and more terrifying missiles. The most dangerous and lethal thing on the future battlefield may not be a single large weapon. The most dangerous thing may be that dark storm created by hundreds of small decisions coming at the same time and understanding each other perfectly. So, what do you think about this new era? Is giving artificial intelligence the authority to fire weapons a mistake that will bring the end of humanity, or a revolution that will speed up and end wars? Share your thoughts and theories with us in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue uncovering the behind the scenes of future technologies.